The same kind of metal. Just be safe. Red 603. Hey, I didn't say yes.
Harold, you want a camera? I've got it. I've got it. Okay.
Maintaining the proper pH level isn't always one of them. That's where AlgaVision Plasma pH drops can make a world of difference. AlgaVision Plasma pH drops helps your body do what's natural. Just a few drops a day helps rid your body of harmful waste and acid. Get your very own plasma pH drops for just $29.95. Call 800-518-7615 or visit alkavision.com. That's ALKA Vision.com. Alkalize your body and supercharge your health at the new alkavision.com. This is Free Talk Live. Call in toll free. 855-450 free. That's 855-450 free.
This is Free Talk Live. We're here live from PorcFest 2014, PorcFest.com. That's where you can go to learn more about this amazing event. And really, at this point, we're about halfway through. It's amazing that it's already almost, halfway completed. But that's where we are. It's not too late for you to get here, though. You can still arrive by the weekend. Things really start to get a lot. It's already fun, but it gets twice as large by Friday night. So if you can make it up here for Friday and or Saturday, come on up. There's a lot of great people to meet, a lot of good folks to network with, folks who are considering making a move to New Hampshire, people who want to move like Brian, but there's a few things holding them back. Sure. Just coming up here for that, somebody just described this as a recharge for themselves, somebody who doesn't live in New Hampshire, to come up here and get the energy from this event, keep carrying you through.
Great way to phrase that. I mean, because we all go through our day-to-day lives, wherever it is we might be in the States or in the world. Yeah, when you come to New Hampshire, you come to PorcFest, and you're with all of those like-minded individuals, you realize, man, I'm not alone in this battle. I'm not alone in this world. There's actually others out there, man, and it does encourage you to keep fighting the good fight.
Sure does. Now, Ross Ulbricht is the person who we're discussing with his mother, Lynn. Lynn, thanks for coming along with us here for a second segment to dig further into this. Your son is facing multiple criminal charges at the federal level now. Apparently, Maryland is bringing charges as well. This is for him allegedly operating the Silk Road. He's been in jail and prison waiting these charges since October of last year. Maybe a trial date set in November, it sounds like. But you were telling us about some of the other delaying going on, and you were just barely scratching the surface of the Maryland murder for hire situation.
Yeah, that was brought up in October, and it's just sat in Maryland, and New York's taken over. Well, I don't think taken over the entire case, but it's happening in New York.
The federal court in New York.
The federal vote, and Maryland, that indictment, nothing's happening with that indictment right now. It's just sitting there. The other 5 have. He was not indicted for it.
The other 5?
Charges of murder for violence. They're gone. They're on charge. And there's one languishing, for whatever purpose, they're not really not.
So just to clear, so some of these murder for hire charges he hasn't been indicted on. One of them he has been, is that right?
Well, it's an indictment, he didn't get arraigned in court, they
No arraigned.
issued, no.
What happens, see, I don't know a lot about, like, I've been through a lot of criminal cases here in New Hampshire, but not at the federal level. So I'm not really intimately familiar with how that works. You know, you've been indicted but not arraigned, so it's just kind of floating out there?
Kind of, yeah, and personally, I'm very certain it's also false, and I think it will go the way of the others, but that's my personal opinion.
I don't know Ross, but when I saw the charges, I thought this doesn't make sense for even whether Ross is Dread Pirate Roberts or not. Having known something about Dread Pirate Roberts, having read articles about it, because we've been following the Silk Road since long before Ross's case came up. So we've been, we read one of the interviews that was done with Forbes magazine and Dread Pirate Roberts, and I mean, Dread Pirate Roberts seemed to be a very principled, liberty-minded person. So does Ross Ulbricht, apparently. He was also a really liberty-minded person. So how somebody like that would ever have even considered putting out a murder for hire contract. And then when you read the indictment, which I did when it came out originally, they were basically saying that he had paid the alleged killer, this hitman, with Federal Reserve notes through a bank transfer.
Right, that never made
What?
sense.
Why would somebody as brilliant as Dread Pirate Roberts pay somebody through an ACH bank transfer when he's, very familiar with Bitcoin? What kind of, you're not this guy's obviously not a fool. I mean, he's put together one of the most successful websites in the history of the internet, one of the most revolutionary sites. And to think that he would be so bloodthirsty as to want to take somebody out who really was, just some internet person, somebody who had allegedly worked with the site in the past, and he was allegedly mad at it. It just all seemed so false and so clearly designed to try to make this guy look like someone he wasn't.
You see that in a lot of high-profile cases, especially the federal cases, where suddenly there's just this twist. I mean, you're reading something and it's believable, and then all of a sudden there's this twist, and it's like, no way. I mean, there's no way that someone would make a mistake like that. The guy has an entire operation, whoever that guy might be, has an entire operation based upon anonymity, and then if he's going to commit an act so brutal, wouldn't that really be the one that you'd want to hide the most?
You would think, and not only that, but he's a principled libertarian, so why would he even
do that in the first place? Exactly.
So I agree with you. I hope this thing falls away, but the purpose really seemed to be to muddy his name as much as possible right out the gate, because otherwise he hadn't harmed anybody. Nobody had alleged that he had actually victimized anyone, and so it would be easier to get people on his side if they didn't think, oh, well, he's a murderer.
Yeah, it did a good job. And it suppressed fundraising, and it just shocked me how many people were ready to believe what the government says, not even use the word alleged in half the media coverage.
Yeah.
And, suddenly he's a mass murderer.
It's crazy. How's he doing? I mean, obviously you're communicating with him. I
just talked to him. I just talked to him right before I came here.
Oh, okay.
And, you were saying how I'm not feeling alone, and I was saying, Ross, you're not alone. I'm here, and all these people wish you so well. And it was just so encouraging for him, so heartening for him, and really uplifted him. And so I'm so grateful for that, for everyone here.
Is he able to do any media? I sent him a letter last year when he was in the first holding facility in San Francisco, and kind of introduced myself, said, hey, if you ever want to reach out, get the word out, here's the number to the studio, the hotline. He never wrote back. I figured it was because he didn't have any stamps or envelopes. I know how it can be, and it was like the very first week that he was in. That offer still stands. If he ever wants to call and get on the radio and talk about how he's feeling, what's happening in jail, that kind of thing. We've actually got a guy, Rich Paul, who's a friend of the show. He's in jail right now for selling cannabis in New Hampshire. Another person who never hurt anybody else. He admits to selling the cannabis, and he violated probation while he was out after having been spent close to a year. So now he's calling the show regularly and just kind of checking in and giving us updates from the inside. So that certainly is still an option. What other news can you bring to the table? Maybe something that is a recent development in the case. You said there was some blocking going on by the prosecution. What's happening there?
Yeah, well, when Ross was indicted, the judge was very concerned that he have access to discovery and to be able to participate in his own defense. As of today, well, what happened was they did submit a CDs, 4.5 terabytes they
Whoa.
flooded him with. That's one of the things they do apparently. So you gotta wade through that. And then they did not give him the software, a laptop with software that could read the CD. So they did submit the discovery,
Right.
but he didn't have the laptop to read the CD.
Yeah, it can be hard to get a laptop in a prison cell. So.
Well, they have to supply that and set it up,
Sure.
right? And, because they denied him bail. And, so, he was sitting there, and I just heard from him today, and he said, well, I finally today, this is 5 months later, trial November 3rd, got to get on a laptop, but I don't have enough time. They're not allowing me enough time on it. So
Unbelievable.
that's the next block. It's, yeah. It's a violation of the due process rights.
Absolutely. I mean, clear as day.
It's not the first time things like that have happened. I mean, it's all the way right down to the low level, people picked up and put in a jail cell in county jail. I mean, the law library is slim at best. It can be hard to get access to it. They won't let you print things. There's just all kinds of nonsense, little nonsense that they put in this petty stuff that they'll put in people's way to try. You don't have a chance at defending yourself, especially if you don't have an attorney. And a lot of people in jail don't have attorneys. They're just waiting to take a plea deal or go at them themselves. And they make it as difficult as possible. And they drag their feet and they make you take them to court and make you force them to give you access to the legal resources you're supposed to have a right to have access to.
Yep, that's correct.
What brought you to PorcFest? How did you end up here?
Actually, Brave New Books in Austin, Texas, Carl Dietrich said he was going to have a table here to help raise money for Ross. And I said, oh, maybe I should go and help. And he said, well, you should speak.
Yeah.
And I said, well, maybe. And then PorcFest was gracious enough to say, yeah, come speak, and I am.
That's
And
fantastic. When are you speaking?
I'm speaking Saturday morning at 10,
Okay.
and I'm going to show that the counts of the indictment do not match the allegations they're bringing forward, which is absolutely unconstitutional, and that this case is much bigger than Ross. It's much bigger than Silk Road. If they can misapply laws against one citizen, they can do it to any of us, but it's also, I believe, going to impact, it's going to create precedent, and precedent that's going to impact the internet, Bitcoin, all kinds of things are going to be challenged by the defense against the prosecution in this case. So it's not just a